Coming up on today's Next Fan Up podcast.
Will we see a 6-10 playoff team this year?
No. We're planning to win the division with 5 wins.
So you do not call that Dockeray?
Well, okay. Well, the difference between you and I is that one of us is insane and the other one is me.
We're almost halfway through the season. Here we go.
That's how we start. Yeah, baby.
32 SuperFans.
Where do the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
1 PodVader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to Week 8 of the National Football League. Week 8, we're almost halfway done. There'll be a few teams that will be halfway done as of the end of this week, but I consider next week really the halfway point of the season. It's a weird one because there's 17 weeks. I guess the middle of next week is the halfway point. Who cares? Bye weeks this week: the Cardinals, the Washington football team, the Jaguars, and the Texans. But even though the Washington football team is on a bye, our super fan is not. Hello, Neil.
Hey guys, we got a win last week, but the biggest win for us, of course, was the great story with Ron Rivera going through his last day of treatment and getting back on the field for us. So well done, Ron. We're right behind you.
Excellent story of Ron Rivera, even coaching through chemo. That's the craziest thing, I think, out of the entire story.
Yeah, especially when you're coaching the level of crap we've got.
Exactly. Speaking of crappy NFL football teams, the Philadelphia Eagles superfan is here. James. Hi, James.
Wow. Really? I know you're not talking right now with your team in third place in the AFC East? Yeah, that's right. Third place. An impossible, punching bag for people to use a lock this week, considering who they're playing. Not only that, great to be back, guys, this week. Teams having a fire sale, one in particular in Texas, just jettisoning a whole bunch of players. So if anybody's out there in the Dallas area, you have a Cowboys jersey, head on down to Jerry World and try out because apparently there's roster spots available.
I don't know so much about that, but I certainly know some pieces I would love to see end up in New England. I don't know where they're all going, but they're not heading north, at least not yet.
Well, one of them did.
Well, I guess we'll see. Our Baltimore superfan, Don, is here. Hello, Don. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Calling in from a beautiful, rainy Baltimore City. I'm excited for this weekend's game.
Wait a second. Did you just use beautiful and rainy in the same phrase? It doesn't usually go together.
Nothing beautiful about Baltimore if you've ever visited or lived here.
It's a game of the week. You must be excited, Don.
Yeah, I mean, lately these high-pressure games, we have not been doing so well. So hopefully this Sunday is a little bit different.
Yeah, game of the week at a 1:00 kickoff, which is
I know it's weird, isn't it? That should be a late game or a televised game Monday night or something. It's best game
almost
of the
season.
season.
It should be Sunday night in prime time or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got the second Ravens Steelers game in Pittsburgh will be on that Thanksgiving night game. So I guess they wanted to feature, just one of them, I guess.
Well, even move it to 4. It's frustrating. In any case. And finally, back from his hiatus, Doc has rejoined us for the entirety of the program. Hello, Doc.
Greetings, salutations.
I should give you your proper introduction. You are,
don't bother,
of course, the co-host and founder of Homegate Tailgate Radio Nation. I think I mixed that up. And an award-winning gridiron chef.
I'm special, that's for sure.
All right. Let's see here. The Pigskin Pick'em, when we get through our picks, you don't want to listen to mine because I have been terrible versus the spread. Vegas has killed me this year. I only got 5 right versus the spread last week. Picking winners, I'm doing a little bit better, but even there, I only had 9 straight up. The power rankings had 10. Last week, one member of our Pigskin Pick'em group Sin City Heat had 12 correct, and Jordan, our Titan superfan, is currently in first place in our group. You can go to ESPN.com and play the Pigskin Pick'em game along with us if you wish. Let's jump into some totally useless stats. I feel like it's early for the useless stats, but here we go. Including Tua Tagovailoa, who will be starting this week. Quarterbacks under the age of 26 are expected to start their collective 100th NFL game in 2020. So far this season, that group has started a combined 91 games, which is tied for the second most through week 7 in NFL history. Of those 91 starts by a quarterback under the age of 26, 40 have resulted in wins, which is the fourth most victories by quarterbacks under the age of 26 through week 7 in NFL history. And so I persist our topic of the week to you, super fans. Remember, it was just like a couple seasons ago, we were all worried about this big turnover of quarterbacks and how we were in for a horrible age of quarterbacking. And yet it doesn't seem to be the case because the NFL's on historic pace for scoring records. And apparently we've got a whole bunch of kids that are behind it, Neil.
There's nothing. The scoring record, I don't think bears much relevance to the quality of the quarterbacking play across the league. I don't think it's any better or any worse than it's been, Jay. You're still going to have the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks and then a big gap for the rest. It's just the reason you're seeing more scoring is because there's more passing plays, I guess. I guess if you looked at the actual stats for how many passing plays there were compared to 10 years ago, it's probably up considerably. And also, I would say that the passing game has changed in the sense it's probably an easier passing game these days. It's very much dumping it off short, isn't it, and crossing routes and slants and all the rest of it. So, it depends. It's a depressing picture, but until we get a quarterback, I don't care.
Well, I was going to say, you have one of those young quarterbacks that didn't quite work out. Don, on the other hand, has one of these young quarterbacks that has been working out quite nicely.
I didn't think I'd ever say that in my lifetime, just based on our, recent quarterback, even more than recent quarterback history. It's obviously good to have Lamar, being 23 years old. I do think it's funny though that we brought up is that the quarterback play dipping with guys like Manning and Tom Brady getting older and retiring, and yet here is Tom Brady still lighting things up at 43 years old. And it's, as much as I dislike him, it's pretty astonishing he's still around and still so good.
That's true. And Doc, you speaking of older quarterbacks, your favorite team being the Saints, Drew Brees is right there, and Tom Brady, 43. Drew Brees, is he 40?
41. Yep.
And they're working on the, they're going back and forth each week as to who's going to have the most regular season touchdowns at the end of the season.
Well, it's going to be good for the old guys, man. It's like they wrote him off. 11 touchdowns, 3 INTs, leading the league in completion percentage again. And he's been playing without the best wideout in the NFL. So we'll just see how it all fares. He's going to have to put up 40 a game the way this sadistic defense is playing. So,
And James, your quarterback is
mediocre. Mediocre. Let's call it what it is. He's borderline trash this season. He had one good year out of his his 5th season. Yeah, one stellar season, and then he busted his ACL and missed the rest of the Super Bowl run. But everything's in his head right now because I look at the play on the field, and every mistake he's making is mental. Just throw the ball away and don't take unnecessary sacks. Those are 2 things that can be changed by just heightening your thought process. So clean that up. He'll be their top half of the league, but right now he's hovering in the middle towards the bottom.
And my team, the New England Patriots, have a crappy quarterback situation. We don't need to get into it right now. The
OC's a head case.
The NFC best or the NFC West, has 19 wins this season, and that is the most among all the NFL divisions. It remains the only division in which all 4 teams are 500 or better, and all 4 teams have a positive point differential entering Week 8. James and Neil, that means the NFC least is really the least.
I think to look at it in terms of wins and losses is probably not the best way to look at it.
Just looking at it as your 4 teams are all crap and everybody else's are much better?
I think what you'll find is in the NFC East, it's a very, very close, tight, and very intense battle for first place. And that's what we want, isn't it? We want intrigue. We want mystery all the way right to the end of the season, and we're going to get that in the NFC East. That's why it remains the best division in football.
I love nothing more than for the winner of this division to pretty much just beat up on an NFC West wildcard team in the first round of the playoffs. Since everyone wants to trash this division, how soon we forget the Seahawks of yesteryear and the Panthers with Cam Newton, who both had losing records, 7-9, 7-8-1 respectively, and won wildcard games. And one of them blew out their opponent. Yep. So, if everyone wants to keep dumping on the NFC East, that's perfectly fine. The division winner will still make the playoffs. I'll be laughing in their faces for that. Playoff seeding and situation should not change. I don't want to hear any crap about the 4th team in the NFC West should get the NFC East spot because punch yourself in the face and jump in a volcano.
James, as you and I know, James, because our division has the most Super Bowl wins in history of any division. That it's about getting
even
to the
more than that. We are the only division with all 4 teams with a Super Bowl victory.
Also, it's just astounding. It's all about getting to the playoffs, isn't it? Never mind what your season record is. Just get to the playoffs and everybody starts 0-0.
Will we see a 6-10 playoff team this year? That's what I'll throw out there.
No. We're planning to win the division with 5 wins.
The winner of the East will have at least 7 wins.
Oh, come on. The dizzying heights of 6 wins. I can't see anybody getting to that in the NFC East.
Oh, boy. Well, the Thursday night game features the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons 28th in our power rankings, the Panthers 17th. They are favored by 2.5. We're not going to go too much into this one as there was an excellent Thursday night preview done by our Atlanta superfan MJ along with Eagles James, who helped him out there. But Eagles James, you've checked off the Atlanta Falcons. I think you've made a mistake. Everybody else has got the Panthers here.
I definitely want the Panthers there.
Okay, excellent. Just
that was clearly the mistake. I think the check mark moved on me.
Just making sure.
But yeah, there's officially Takk McKinley is out for the Falcons tonight, and don't expect Christian McCaffrey to play. Considering the field they're expecting a nice wet field tonight. They're not putting any tarp down apparently in Carolina.
Yes, so tropical system Zeta, whatever we want to call it. I can't believe we went through the entire alphabet and then the entire Greek alphabet already in terms of tropical systems. But
what's next?
I don't know. I for some reason I think they do go to Roman numerals after this. But beyond that, there's also another system that's pulling in some more moisture. So it's going to be a wet weekend this weekend. I'm not going to go through the weather reports. I still think it's too early, even though we did miss the snow report last week. I'm very disappointed that we missed that.
I'm disappointed in you too, because I was pleasantly happy to see snow in Denver, and you missed that completely. Shame on you, Jay.
I know. But that's what the weather is. Don, you also have the Panthers here, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another hilarious way that the Falcons can lose this game. Like, I don't know, like, would it be like what Cromartie did years ago? Like, the Falcons go for like a game-winning field goal, and then like the Panthers guy, picks it up short and returns it for a touchdown to win it. Like, I don't know how else that Atlanta can lose a game that they have in hand this time. But I don't think it'll be this close. And I think, not that I'm a huge Bridgewater fan, but I think the Carolina offense rolls over them.
I don't know. Thursday night games have been just as unpredictable as they typically are, with or without fans. And I do believe Carolina is allowed to have a few fans in their stands.
They are. And Bridgewater, by the way, is second in the league in completion percentage at 72.2%, I believe, or 73.3. They've got a nice offense going there with and without McCaffrey.
So we'll see how that game plays out. Let's move now to Sunday and the 1 o'clock games. I don't know how this one ended up being first, but it's the it's the New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots, wait, this number looks to be backwards. I believe the 1 is supposed to be in front of the 2, not after it. New England Patriots are 21st in our power rankings. The Bills are 8th. They are favored by 3.5 points in this particular game. 3 quarterbacks, more than any season since at least 1950 through 7 weeks, have at least 5 rushing touchdowns. Those 3 quarterbacks are Kyler Murray, who has 7, Cam Newton, who has 5, and Carson Wentz also has 5, James. Quarterbacks have run for 51 touchdowns, which is more than any other season in NFL history through a season's first 7 weeks. With Josh Allen, he isn't getting mentioned because while he has 204 rushing yards, he only has 3 rushing touchdowns. How dare he be so too short from these other guys? He does have 20 rushing touchdowns in 35 career games, trailing only Cam Newton, who has 23, for the most by a quarterback over his first 35 NFL contests. Now, the Patriots typically own the Bills. Bill Belichick owns the Bills. Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football made a nice joke that, Bill Belichick actually named the Buffalo Bills after himself. But I think that changes this week. In one term of weather, we did look this up. It's going to be 50 degrees and windy, 22 mile per hour winds in Buffalo for this one, which does lead to a run fest, which could favor the Patriots, but I don't think so. I am taking the Bills. James has got question mark on a lock on the Bills. Don is taking the Bills. Neil is locking in the Patriots. Why, you foolish Scotsman?
Thanks very much. Clearly, the Patriots looked terrible last week. I mean, really, really terrible.
They looked worse than the Jets, and that's
they certainly offensively look terrible. I also think there's a bit of an anomaly there, Jay, because what the 49ers do really well is a really bad matchup for you guys, because what they do well is they do this wide running game, and you saw a lot of times they were running right out wide and coming back in, and that's the sort of thing that the Patriots linebackers just cannot cope with, that because they're some of them have got the turning circle of an oil tanker. They're just, they're so slow. They can't turn, they can't pick up, and you just can't get out there to make the tackles. And your linebackers were absolutely destroyed last week. Now, that's a one-off game because I don't think many teams run the ball like that and so heavily. But and the Bills don't. And the Bills have they've been struggling offensively, and there's got to be some questions asked about the Bills after their very fast start. And I'm sorry, Rob, but the Bills have been really poor quarterback play, and they can't run the ball. So they're not going to run the ball over you guys like the 49ers did. So I think that gives you a chance. And I like the Patriots to win this game quite comfortably. I really think this is a game that matches up really nicely for you. And I have to go and answer my door. Sorry, back in a second.
Yeah, I don't have the same faith as you. Doc, what do you think?
Well, I believe in Belichick, but I just don't think there's enough there. I mean, you got 3 TDs, 11 interceptions, combined quarterback play. Bills, I think the lipstick's off the pig. I'll just tell you this. If they lose this one to the Patriots, all of Western New York will be suicidal. Here we go again. But I think New England gets it right. I do. They haven't lost 4 straight since 2002. Ironically, somehow in some commentary this week, Jay Fiedler was the last quarterback when they played the Dolphins. I don't know what the stat was, but ironically, I'm talking to Jay and his wife right now. It'd be a good retrospective. But no, I just without having lost 4 in a row since 2002, I just think Belichick will pull one out of his behind somehow. And I think it'll be like the Bills game last week, a low-scoring game, a lot of field goals. I think the Patriots win by a field goal. And by the way, I'm not in your picks game, but I had the second perfect week straight up this week.
Ooh.
14 of 14, and I was 10 of 14 against the spread, yet I don't have a betting account. So, yeah. I wish I did.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I would say that I would follow your picks, but I know as soon as I do that, I will curse you. And then you will start losing just like I have been all season.
Jay, before you move on from the Patriots,
I'm not moving on. I wanted to actually mention something about the Patriots because I do like what you're saying about the rushing game. The one thing the Patriots do well offensively is run the ball. Where they don't do well is they have this weird rotating thing where they take Damian Harris, who is clearly their best offensive player right now, off the field for drives, which makes literally no sense. And then Cam Newton is sitting in the pocket, has no idea where he's supposed to throw. And Cam looked okay during the first 4 games of the season, got COVID, and now looks like he's regressing, which is not something you typically see, especially out of a Patriots team. As the season goes on, you usually see improvement. You certainly don't see regression. So I don't know if it's a COVID thing, if it's an injury thing, but there's definitely something wrong with Cam in regards to the passing game. And the other thing is I think they're trying to be too smart for their own good. Just keep Damian Harris in there and keep giving him the rock. Let him run the heck out of that ball. Run him like crazy, and then worry about maybe bringing in Rex Burkhead for a breather or James White for a breather. Stop doing this every other series thing. It's ridiculous.
All right, Jay, enough of that crap. We've got to get to the real nub of the issue that the listener wants to talk about, and that is, as a Patriots fan, how does it feel? What's your view that all of a sudden Bruce Arians looks like a Hall of Fame coach, and Bill Belichick looks like you and me coaching? So, are we finally ready to say? Are we finally ready to lay that marker down and say it was all Brady?
No. Not at all. But the two of them have the hugest egos in the world, and that's what the conversation is going to come down to. I was the reason. Oh, I was the It's the both of them that were the reason. And there's going to be a stat coming up in a later game where I'm going to show you how much this really is a team sport versus an individual sport.
But you know that's nonsense, don't you? Because years ago we used to say, "Oh, remember that year when Brady didn't play and this other quarterback, I can't remember his name now, came in and the Patriots went to the playoffs because he's a genius, he can do it with any quarterback." I mean, when are we going to be saying, "Oh yeah, and remember that Cam Newton year when he crapped the bed"?
Well, there might be a reason why Cam Newton was the last quarterback available. Just saying.
Are you missing Brady? Come on, tell us.
James, what's the injury report?
How are you feeling? Come on, tell us.
Let me just say this. As far as Cam, I think he's still suffering from COVID recovery. And this is the part where I think people have it screwed up because he's an athlete. COVID takes a lot out of you. I know people personally who have had it. They have not felt like themselves for at least a month and a half after having it. Yes, the period in which you are drained, zapped, you feel lifeless is roughly 10 to 14 days on average. The recovery time after that to get back to what normal is for your body is much longer. So Cam may have had COVID, passed through him for a couple of weeks or whatever. He's still in the recovery process to get his body back to whatever normal is. And yes, he's an athlete. He, physically superior to the average person walking the planet right now. But even still, as an athlete, this has got to be taking like almost everything out of him still. For him to be playing like this, I still think he's in the recovery phase of COVID. As far as injuries, I'm going to start with Buffalo. Biggest name on the injury report is Josh Norman with a hamstring. He's unlikely to suit up as he's listed as doubtful in the injury report. Other players listed as questionable include Micah Hyde, Jerry Hughes, Cody Ford, Vernon Butler, Matt Milano, Quentin Jefferson, Brian Winters.
Is Tre'Davious White back?
Tre'Davious White is not listed on my injury report. He should be back.
Yeah. Jay, on you
Patriots. For the Patriots, of course, the obvious with his knee injury, running wide receiver routes, he'll probably be out there. Damian Harris was limited in practice yesterday with an ankle injury. N'Keal Harry is in a head injury. He was spotted at a portion of practice. Oh my gosh, what's that about? But apparently
he got a concussion last week.
Okay,
that when McDaniels punched him in the head.
Several offensive linemen, including Shaq Mason, Justin Herron, Joe Tooney. Defensive players: Kyle Duggar, Carl Davis, Lawrence Guy, John Simon. Yeah, it's a lot of names on the injury report for you this week, Jay.
So I will tell you, Kyle Duggar didn't play last week, and he was a big piece missing in that run defense that you were talking about, Neil, because he plays as that hybrid strong safety linebacker.
Good speed about him as well, doesn't he? Yeah, good play.
Yeah, and so he's definitely a missing piece to that defense. And the Joe Tooney injury is a problem because that Patriots offensive line hasn't stayed healthy at all this season.
So let me take you back. Let me take you back, Jay, to 1983.
Why are you taking me back to that year? Because I actually remember that year.
Yeah, now 1983, of course, is a very popular year in any quarterback conversation, and clearly the Patriots are going to have to look at their quarterback position, I guess, at the end of the season, as we currently see things. And back in 1983, you'll remember that somewhere in that first round, I think somewhere around the middle of that first round, the Patriots selected Tony Eason. Yes.
Yeah, he was great.
You've never heard of him because he was terrible. In amongst, of course, Elway and Blackledge and Kelly and O'Brien and Marino and these guys. And, of course, this year we're going to have 3 or 4 quarterbacks coming in the first round. What's the Patriots' chat about the quarterback position and getting it right if they end up in a 1983 situation?
That's the problem. There's only 2 guys, right? There's only Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Who else?
You'd have to add Trey Lance in there, and I think you could probably chuck in Sam Darnold, even though he's not a rookie. And I would think you might even get something like Jamie Newman coming in towards the end of the first round. So you're probably talking 4 quarterbacks coming out in that first round.
Yeah, but the problem is I think what I just said is you're really only talking about 2 quarterbacks. The other 2 are the other 2 are maybes. They're big ifs.
Trey Lance will definitely go top 10.
Yeah, he'll go top 10, but should he go top 10? Is he going to be the quarterback of the future?
Is he going to be Eason or is he going to be Marino? Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
I think there's a better chance of Lawrence and Fields being a Marino and an Elway than Trey Lance and the other one that you mentioned there that I've heard some chatter about.
Jamie
in regards to Patriots quarterback options. The Patriots quarterback position next season is definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on because I don't think it's going to be Cam Newton.
Are you feeling uncertain, Jay? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling anxious about your team?
I'm feeling it's time to talk about the Tennessee Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Titans are 7th in the power rankings. The Bengals are 24th. Titans are favored by 5.5 points in this one. They also lead the league in take giveaway ratio +9 with only 3 turnovers all season. I am going to take the Titans. James, is going to do his thing. He's going to lock it in. We're actually all taking the Titans here, Doc. Are you taking the Bengals?
No, but QB1, a big fan of, I'll tell you, when they get some talent around them. And AJ Green has come back up to normal, but there's just not enough talent there. But love the way that the Titans are being coached overall. Really do. And there's enough talent there. I don't think losing a tackle has affected them much. So I think it'll take a couple weeks to see that. They're a top 5 team in the NFL right now. I don't see anybody beating them anytime soon. They play a complete game.
I have to say, Jay, you got to get on to James here again because he's done the same thing he did the last 7 weeks of the season. He takes an absolute locked on cert as his lock of the week. I mean, come on, James, grow up here.
I mean, this is a slam dunk lock. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but look at me. I took the deadbeat losers of the Patriots.
Well, okay. Well, the difference between you and I is that one of us is insane and the other one is me. So, I mean, I tend to like to think these things out first before I just throw craziness out there into the ether. I do want to talk about the Bengals for a little bit because they traded Carlos Dunlap to the Seahawks earlier this week. I actually told him to stay home on Tuesday and don't even report to the facility as they were shopping him around because he expresses displeasure with the franchise on social media. He soon after shut down all social media connected with the Bengals, and sometime yesterday he was officially traded to the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't know what's going on there in Cincinnati as far as an organizational standpoint. I understand it's growing pains because they had the first overall pick. There's really not much coming out of the talent currently there as far as giving this team hope as far as the immediate future. This is not going to be a quick turnaround of 2 to 3 years. It's probably going to be a long, drawn-out process. And, oh, by the way, they still play in a division with the Steelers and the Ravens. On the flip side, I look for Tennessee to bounce back.
Don will know better than the rest of us because he plays in that division, but Dunlap has had a sneaky, impressive career. He's already over 80 sacks for his career. That's pretty good for a guy who's not high in the sort of media profile.
Don, how about it? What can you tell us about Carlos Dunlap? That's what I thought.
I mean, he's had a pretty solid run. I mean, nothing like, leading sacks or anything. He's always played well against the Ravens over the years. So not surprised that he wants to go. I mean, I guess it's kind of surprising now that he wants to go when it seems like the future is a little bit brighter for the Bengals. But the Seahawks need some kind of help defensively, especially on the pass rush, and they didn't trade very much away to get him. So I think it's a good move for Seattle.
He's had 13 total tackles, 1 sack, and he's not even rated in the top 25 D-line players. So I think they're getting nothing but vanilla.
Sorry, James, a couple of Pro Bowls in his career. Best season is 13.5 sacks. That was back in 2015.
Just days are behind. Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
Sure, we had 9 sacks last year. Okay.
Fair. I mean, he's a good player, not a very good player.
Exactly. He's steady. Yeah. I mean, he's
serviceable.
That's 9 more sacks than James got last year.
Sure.
Nice. Quick hits on the injuries. Just the big ones here for Cincinnati. B.J. Finney and Bobby Hurt are out. William Jackson III and Trey Hopkins are in concussion protocol, and Joe Mixon is nursing a foot injury. For the Titans, Clowney showing up as questionable with his knee injury that he suffered in last week's game. Jonathan Joseph is listed as illness. He did not practice on Wednesday.
B.J. Finney, by the way, was one of the players the Bengals got in return in that trade, which is why I'm assuming he's out. I don't think he's actually injured, but maybe he is. Doesn't really matter. He's an offensive lineman.
Yeah, no, it's not injury related. Yeah.
The Las Vegas Raiders are at the Cleveland Browns. The Raiders fall from 13 to 16, while the Browns move up from 14 to 13, and they are favored by 2.5 points in this particular game. I do believe that this is going to be one of the funner games to watch this week, and I think the difference in this one is that the league-leading sack man, Myles Garrett, who has 9 sacks so far in the season, which is as many as Carlos Dunlap had all last year, is on Cleveland. And that leads to 14 takeaways by Cleveland. The Raiders only have 3 takeaways all season long. I'm going to take the Browns here, and apparently I'm alone on an island. Everybody else is going here with the Raiders. Doc, how about you?
Raiders.
Yeah, so I'm all alone.
Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do Raiders. I think that what was the Mayfield quote? He thinks they're a better team without Odell or something, or we might have been misquoted, but I just think that he's looking around. I think you've got this quota with OBJ you had to keep up probably subconsciously in the back of his head in every huddle. But no, I think the Raiders right now, I think they've got as much upside long term, and I got no real patience with Baker Mayfield right now. So,
well, James and I have certainly mentioned that Baker's chatty press conferences needs to learn to keep that chatter down. Yes.
Yeah.
He was a bit subdued this week, but my thing is watching him last week, and yes, Garrett may be leading the league in sacks, but where was the rest of that defense? They played the Bengals last week and won on a last-second touchdown. That should have been a blowout by at least 20 points, 14 at least. There's no way the Bengals should have, one, had a 10-0 lead on them at the end of the first quarter, and two, been competitive all game. I understand it's NFL, everybody's a professional, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals. And I shouldn't be talking at all because my team tied with them, but for Cleveland to be this team with playoff aspirations, you're supposed to beat down teams that have no business being on the field with you. And I know they're in the same division, and you throw all the stats and previous hoopla out the window, but even still within division, when a team with playoff aspirations goes up against the dregs of the division, they beat them down. And Cleveland couldn't do that to Cincinnati. So, yeah, I don't have much faith in them this week.
Defensively in the NFL, you're only as strong as your weakest position group. And I look at the Browns, and I do wonder, they have a rather soft underbelly. I think the linebackers and the safeties, not great, I think. And I think you can have your Wards and your Myles Garrett and these kind of guys, but when you've got a really weak position group behind them, you're gonna get found out, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Injuries briefly.
Well, thanks
Daryl Hodge. I'm agreeing with you. I don't have much more to say than that.
I'll be the first.
Could Daryl Hodge practice Wednesday? Austin Hooper is doubtful with an appendix. And for the Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs was limited with a knee injury. Brian Edwards, receiver, has ankle and foot injury.
You're the Michael Thomas of this podcast. Now you're being paid. Yeah, you're just no interested.
Wait, I'm being paid? Did someone not tell me?
You're certainly not living up to that contract, I can tell you.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, before I move on, Don, did you want to say something about your division mates there?
No, not really. I'm good.
Okay, very well. The Indianapolis
I mean, the only quick thing I want to say is, obviously just still waiting for Nick Chubb to get back. I mean, Kareem Hunt's been doing okay. He hasn't really been setting the world on fire, which is strange. I thought he'd be putting up at least bigger numbers, considering he's the feature back. But I know Odell's up and down, but it's going to be a big loss with him out of there.
Hunt appears to be more like a complementary player these days. When Chubb was running hard and Hunt was coming in, he was doing well. But as a feature back, Don, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, the offensive line is still banged up as well. So
that's true too.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts remain steady at 12 in the power rankings. The Detroit Lions are hosting them and have moved up to 18. The point spread is 3 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts. This is another one that I think should be closer than you might think, with Phillip Rivers looking for his 4th game in a row versus Detroit with 275 plus passing yards, and Matthew Stafford, who has 3 plus passing touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 at home. But the difference is the defenses, and the Colts are just better in that regard. And so I will take the Colts, but I think 3 points, you're probably going to get a push on 3 points. Everybody else is also taking the Colts. I have a feeling, though, I heard a little oomph in the background when I said it was going to be a closer game than you might think. Someone want to disagree?
Yeah. It will, because Phillip Rivers and Matthew Stafford don't really set the world on fire. And if it wasn't for Phillip Rivers being the starting quarterback of the Colts, this is probably another game I would lock in.
They just seem to be incredibly lucky, don't they? The Lions. This game last week where Gurley scored when he shouldn't have scored, and I don't know. I'm never quite sure. Is that a good thing when you're lucky like that and you win these weird games, or is that a bad thing? I'm never 100% sure.
Well, it depends. If you want to get Matt Patricia out of town, he's now 3-3. So it's a little tougher to fire the coach with a 3-3 record. Although this team has done it before.
Jim Caldwell was 9-7, and then they fired him.
Yes,
Right.
that's what I was alluding to. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Patricia could still go. But I would say, I do think the Lions might be showing a little signs of improvement, perhaps just a little bit. But yeah, they did get lucky. And I will say this: it wasn't like Gurley scoring gave them a quarter to go down the field and score. It gave them only a minute and 9 seconds. So it was still a pretty impressive feat for Stafford to move the team down in 3 plays.
Well, that's a minute and 9 seconds is plenty in the NFL. I mean, I've seen plenty of Washington quarterbacks get sacked a couple of times and throw an interception in a minute and 9 seconds. So
I'm just saying, it's not like it's a world of time. It's a minute. Just say it, Matthew. And listen, James just said these two quarterbacks don't light the world on fire, and yet when Phillip Rivers plays the Lions, he puts up a lot of yards, and Stafford, when he's at home, puts up a lot of touchdowns.
You are defending the Lions almost like there's some sort of Patriot connection.
I would like to point out I have been on board the mad scientist is getting his job taken away from him by the end of the season, and probably should have had his job taken away from him last season. I've been on that train right from the beginning. But at the same time, I'm going to defend a guy whose team is starting to show a little bit of signs of life. Now, it's just a little. It's not a lot. And if they get blown out by the Colts, that's a whole different story next week. Where are we on injuries here?
Everson Griffin, who was just acquired from the Dallas Cowboys via trade for 2021 sixth-round conditional pick, won't play this week. Desmond Trufant is questionable. And for the Colts, Darius Leonard still nursing that inner thigh area. Mo Ali Cox has a knee injury, and Ryan Kelly also shows up as questionable. So,
James,
a little bit of concerns for both sides.
What is the process for nursing your inner thigh?
I was about to ask the same question, Neil. We're on the same page.
Probably a nice ice pack and a bag of peas.
Not the first thing I think of when I hear nursing. Say it. The Minnesota Vikings boy, that was the shortest of them all. The Minnesota Vikings are at the Green Bay Packers. The Vikings are 27th in the power rankings. The Packers are 6th. They are favored by 6.5 points. Now, I changed all your picks for you guys because I mistakenly put the Green Bay Packers and Minnesota Vikings, the actual writing of the team names on the wrong line. But we're all taking the Packers in this one. I will tell you why I am taking.
Wait. We're not all taking the Packers. I might actually stop going with this because I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. This is the game where I was going to highlight where football is a team sport, because Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen both lead the league in touchdowns. Dalvin Cook has 7 rushing touchdowns, which leads the league, and Adam Thielen has 7 receiving touchdowns, which leads the league. That has gotten the Vikings a big whopping 1-6 record. Packers have also won the past 3 versus the Vikings. So I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers as well. The Packers are also the second leading scoring team in the league.
What's happened to the Vikings? What's gone wrong there?
They're missing Stephon Diggs.
Does he play defensive back, does he?
No, but he gives Adam Thielen a break so he doesn't have to score all the touchdowns.
But
they do have this rookie that should have been a Philadelphia Eagle, whose name I struggle to say from time to time, and he's leading all rookies in touchdowns.
Oh.
And yards.
So they're scoring plenty of points then. So it's defensively the issue. Is the big issue? Is it defensively?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take a peek.
Cousins might have thrown 10 picks already.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So offensively, they're scoring 25.8 points per game. on offense, 374.2 yards per game. But defensively, they allow 32 points per game, and they are allowing 413.7 yards per game. And they're minus 7 in takeaway giveaway with 5 takeaways, 12 giveaways.
Yeah, and they re-up Kirk Cousins. Interesting. Okay. I'm not going to say any more about how much garbage he is. I mean, you might as well just pull a burning dumpster fire on the field and have it call signals behind center.
Are they a team who's going to be actively selling players in this trade for the trade deadline? Are they a team who's getting rid of guys?
Nah.
Doesn't appear so.
They can. I don't think they can afford to, honestly. They have too much invested so far. You could say they can just go back and retool it next season and they'll just limp through the rest of the season. But then my concern is, much like what happened in Atlanta, you had a defensive-minded head coach with a horrible defense, and you have the same thing here in Minnesota. This defense, and I know it's missing talent, but this is supposed to be one of the better coached defenses in the league, and Zimmer's not getting the job done with this unit this year.
Mm.
So, I mean, 32 a game, and your head coach was a former DC. There's definitely something going on there schematically, and when I watch the Vikings play, I see a lot of pieces. I see no fight from the offensive line as far as pass rush. The linebackers are always lost in coverage, and the secondary pretty much couldn't get out of a phone booth without help. So.
Packers were off last week too, were they not?
No, they actually played the Houston Texans. Why would you say that about the Texans?
Oh, sorry. Because I can't remember anymore. Once we get into all these bye weeks, I always get confused as to who had the week off and who didn't.
The Packers played a game last week. They blew out the Houston Texans. That's not a bye.
Okay, well, I mean, the Packers are blowing out a lot of teams. I mean, let's face it. The Packers right now are playing really good football. And defensively, they're right up there too.
Yeah, they got stomped on by the Buccaneers, didn't they, a couple of weeks ago? But otherwise, pretty good. Yeah.
Yep. What do we have for injuries here, James?
Dalvin Cook is not expected to play. He too has that inner thigh injury going on. Cornerback.
Is he nursing it?
So the cornerbacks for the Minnesota Vikings, as Neil pointed out earlier, pretty much, lackluster to begin with. All 3 are on the injury report: Mike Hills, Holton Hill, and Chris Boyd. The Green Bay Packers have the laundry list of injuries. Briefly, Darnell Savage, Zadarius Smith, Equanimous St. Brown, Robert Tonyan, Mercedes Lewis, Preston Smith, Mason Crosby, Aaron Jones, Tyler Irvin, Kevin King, David Bakhtiari. Those are all the big names, and it's twice as many as that listed here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but those are the big ones that stand out.
Aaron Jones, is he expected to play or no?
Calf muscle, did not practice on Wednesday.
I would say probably not. And
keep an eye on that through the weekend.
No, I think last night they announced that he was going to suit up.
Is he?
Yeah, I heard that NFL radio or something. I can't remember. So,
well, I would say if you're a fantasy player, be cautious if he is playing. Be ready
Williams if he's available.
Be ready with Jamal Williams. All you Jamal Williams owners. Actually, I think I saw something too that this week is a tough week for fantasy players in regards to running back play.
Yeah, a lot of big names not playing this week or iffy.
Yeah,
Dalvin Cook amongst them.
It's a rough week. And Dalvin Cook is leading the league in touchdowns. It's a shame.
Still, he's missed the last 2 games.
I know. We've been going through these games fast. I expect this one's going to be one of our quickest. I believe we'll have a big conversation about the Vegas line because it's the New York Jets at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs moved back to the number 1 spot. The Jets have not moved out of 32. This is my lock of the week. I don't really have anything else to add to it because the Jets are that bad and the Chiefs are that good. And the question I have for you gentlemen is 19.5 points enough for the Jets to get a victory? Because that is the point spread. Neil.
Oh, well, first of all, you and James have locked this game up. You should be embarrassed. Listen, no, I think it will be less than 19.5 points because I don't think the Chiefs are playing all that well. I think they'll just play within themselves, get the game over and done with, save themselves from injuries, and move on to whatever the next week holds for them. 19.5 is a lot of points.
Doc?
37-14.
So 19.5 is
It covers.
Yeah. All right.
Jets aren't going to score anything more than 12 to 14 points. And I agree with Neil. Kansas City's not playing that great right now.
Well, pause on that one because watching the game against the Broncos last week, who, albeit doesn't have a great football team, offense is probably on par, if not just as bad as the Jets. They couldn't do much. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs pretty much scored in all three phases of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. That's got to give Chiefs fans some type of, encouragement, a little more bravado, knowing that the offense played average last week. I mean, Mahomes only had 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Edwards-Helaire didn't, have that many rushing yards, but he still found the end zone. And yet they were able to dominate in the other two phases of the game, so much so that the offense only had to run ball control. If they can replicate that same thing in the special teams and defense plays as well as they did last week, offense doesn't have to do that much. And that is very scary for an opponent that's not the Jets. Now you're talking about the Jets with a defense that doesn't know how to do anything except blitz and an offense that's just been completely inept all season.
Don?
Yeah, man, I'm with James on that one. I mean, seeing how average their offense was, and they still, as a team, still trounced the Broncos is, it's a sign of a really great team. And having your offense having Mahomes want to throw 1 touchdown for a second week in a row, I don't see that happening. I mean, the Jets are just miserable. It normally would be hard to be a Jets fan, especially this year. Just got to be just awful. Yeah, I don't think 19.5 points is enough.
The largest point spread in NFL history was in 2013 when the Broncos were 28-point home favorites over the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, the Steelers are the only team in NFL history to cover a spread of more than 20 points. So
interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these are professional teams. My rule of thumb is double point spreads. You take the underdog. This is obviously a large double point spread. I got to tell, listen, put a teaser on that and take the Jets as underdogs.
Yeah, give me your money. I'll bet on the Jets.
Got some breaking news for you guys.
Oh, we have breaking news.
Yeah, we do have breaking news.
Julian Edelman is out this week for the Patriots.
Yeah. That makes that game even more likely that the Bills are going to win, which
maybe he's missed his drug test.
Judging by his numbers, he's been out for most of the season, it seems like. But
bad. Look, I'd like to pile on Jay a little bit more about his squad, but briefly, injuries for the Chiefs include Taco Charlton, Chris Jones, and Sammy Watkins all showing up as questionable this week. And for the Jets, as if anyone cares, Frank Gore and Sam Darnold, they put Kyle Phillips on injured reserve, Brashard Perriman, Jamison Crowder. Yeah, pretty much anybody who's embarrassed to be a Jet is probably on injured reserve. Bradley McDougall, Connor McDermott. So, yeah, it just looks like a who's who of guys who don't want to be there anymore.
The Los Angeles Rams are at the Miami Dolphins. The Rams are 9th in the power rankings. The Dolphins are 20th. Rams are favored by 3.5 points. Dolphins have won 10 of the last 11 versus the Rams. Granted, the last time they played was in 2016. Tua makes his debut in this one, and I think it's a mistake. They should have waited. I'm taking the Rams, as we all are.
Why do you think it's a mistake? I kind of thought that was a terrific decision they made. What's your thinking there, Jay?
Well, Fitzgerald actually is leading a team that is scoring quite a bit of points.
I think he's Fitzpatrick.
Whatever his name is. The guy with the beard.
Exactly.
That dude.
Whatever his name is. We don't care.
And quite honestly, the team chemistry was working quite well. The team's 3-3. They're second in the division. The team that's again? Usually the team that's usually in first is below them.
All right, so you're basing it on the scenario that they could make the playoffs at this point. That's where your kind of thinking comes from.
No, my thinking is more just that the Dolphins were playing pretty good football with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you didn't need to rush the rookie. And now it feels kind of like they are rushing the rookie. And I guess the plan was that he was going to start after the bye week no matter what, but then the schedule got changed. And so the bye week moved on them.
Tennessee.
And I just think, to me, they didn't need to bring Tua in at this particular point in time. They could have waited a little bit longer until either A, the playoffs were completely out of the picture, or B, the season was coming to an end. Patrick Mahomes sat an entire season and played the very last game of the very last game of the regular season. Like the Rams defense is pretty good. We'll see how Tua can deal with Aaron Donald rushing him up the middle, which is the spot that most quarterbacks don't like the rush to come from. Can't imagine a rookie quarterback without a lot of experience is going to fare well with that kind of rush.
Look, I agree with starting Tua, just not this opponent, especially after seeing what they did to a supposedly competent Bears offense last week.
I wouldn't call the Bears offense competent.
I said supposedly. It was supposed to get better with Nick Foles in there, and as we've seen since he's been playing, hasn't looked great considering he's thrown more picks than interceptions. We'll deal with the Bears later, but as far as the Rams, I mean, you talk about a bounce-back, get-right game. That was it for the team collectively, because the egg they laid the previous week against the 49ers was embarrassing, to say the least. Unless the Dolphins break out some newfangled chipperation like the Wildcats several years ago that stumped the Patriots. Sorry, Jay. I don't see how they even keep track in this game. They're still playing solid defense, but if that defense is on the field more than the offense is, problems.
What do we have for injuries?
For the Rams, both tight ends, Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, show up on the injury report, illness and hand, respectively. For the Dolphins, we've got Devontae Parker, inner thigh, Kyle Van Noy, Raekwon Davis, and Adam Shaheen, who's just signed to an extension, has a shoulder injury that limited him in practice this week, along with Bobby McCain.
By the way, just to expand on the breaking news that Neil dropped, per Adam Schefter, Julian Edelman underwent a precautionary standard knee procedure and is expected to be sidelined for some period of time, which is not anyway. So I guess the Patriots. Well, the one good thing is the Patriots already have 2 wins, so they can't fall below the Jets. So.
That's right. And the other good
I mean, are the Jets playing themselves or a brown paper bag anytime this season?
The good part of it, Jay, of course, is that you had this covered because you drafted a first-round wide receiver last year.
Yes. Oh, God. Don, are you ready? Because this one's for you, buddy. The last 1:00 game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers move from 5-2. The Ravens move from 4-3. The Ravens, 3.5-point favorites. I have a bunch of stats for you on this one, Don. Ravens are averaging 29.8 points per game this season and are averaging 32.3 points per game since the beginning of the 2019 season. And that is the highest mark in the league over that span. They have scored at least 20 points in every regular season contest since week 11 of the 2018 season, which is a streak of 29 games. So if you can manage 20 points against Pittsburgh, you will tie the Denver Broncos for 30 consecutive games, the longest streak of regular season games scoring at least 20 points in NFL history. Broncos did that from 2012 to 2014. For the Steelers side of this, in each of the last 2 seasons and in 3 of the last 5, the league's last undefeated team has advanced to the Super Bowl. However, those teams were the 49ers, Rams, and Panthers. All were losers of said Super Bowl. Steelers-Ravens matches the head coaches with the NFL's top 2 records in games following a bye since 2010. John Harbaugh, 8-2. Mike Tomlin, 8-3. Ravens were off last week. Steelers won their Week 5 contest after their bye. This game is in Baltimore. I don't know if you guys have fans yet or not, but I'm taking the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, this Sunday's the first one with fans, so there'll be about 4,000 people there. They're just opening up the lower bowl and the club level. I'm not going. I'm not a fool. I'll wait till things are better. Not that Maryland's a bad COVID state, but yeah, no thanks. I'd be concerned about going in the concourses and the bathrooms, but that's a different discussion, I guess. I think everybody went with the Ravens on this.
We really did, which is a little bit surprising, quite honestly.
Yeah, I almost went with the Steelers myself. I mean, looking back on the Steelers' schedule, I mean, obviously, being the only undefeated team is impressive. Besides the Browns game, they didn't really have any hugely, impressive showings. I mean, they had a lot of close games that came down to the wire. I mean, I feel like only beating the Giants by 10 isn't enough for a good team because the Giants are pretty bad. It's just safe to say. I mean, honestly, I'm concerned with the Steelers' pass rush. You hit the nail on the head. The Ravens are the highest scoring team in the league. It just doesn't feel like it this year. There's just something is not there. It's Lamar's numbers are even better. Like his passing, his touchdown interception ratio is better. His passer rating is better. They have a better record at this point in the season than they did last year. It just seems strange. I mean, the defense seems like they're getting more turnovers than they have been, which is good because they can give up a lot of yards, so they need to get every turnover they can. I'm concerned with the Ravens' offensive line, especially interior. Center Matt Skura is still coming back from that bad knee injury last year. He's played all year, but we don't have that power inside, without Marshall Yanda being there. And as good as the Steelers' pass rush is, I could see them definitely making the day difficult for Lamar. I don't know if Ingram's going to play or not. Even if Mark Ingram isn't going to play, I don't think that changes the game plan. I mean, we've got some good backs behind him. It really comes down to see if Yannick Ngakoue, his first week with the Ravens, see if he can make any kind of an impact. I'm sure he's not going to be playing a full game. Let's keep him on a pitch count, snap count, have him in certain packages. But if they're able to get like 2 turnovers in this game. I mean, I think it's a Ravens win, pulling away. But the Steelers are definitely a team to worry about. It's going to come down to one of those. It could be another one of those traditional 3-point games, which is funny because of course the spread's 3.5. But I think the Ravens will be able to eke it out. I think they'll be able to grind it out. Run it in the fourth quarter, get away from the pass, and hopefully use their speed to get a victory.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Sure, go ahead.
Because, I mean, while I believe everything Don just said, just the history of these two teams just cringingly has me, cautious as far as picking either one to win because however confident you feel in one team, the other team has the same legit chance to win. And like Don said, 3 points is typically the margin of victory in these games. And he's right. Something does look off in Baltimore's offense. And probably the main thing is Lamar Jackson's rushing numbers are down by a lot. That element of the game is not there this season as far as the offense. And granted, like you said, the passing numbers are up. Completion percentage is better, more touchdowns and everything, less interceptions. But the the rushing aspect is not there as far, at least from Lamar Jackson. Now, the deceptiveness of the way the offense is run, as far as more teams jumping towards Jackson and letting the running backs run free, sure. Jackson's had a few long touchdown runs. Notably, he had the 47-yard against Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago. But overall for the season, the rushing, his legs are not a part of the offense as it was last year. As far as Mark Ingram, you mentioned, he is still nursing an ankle injury. He didn't practice yesterday. So they do have a number of backs in that backfield to pick up the slack. But I don't know. There's something about this game that's like, I know I picked Baltimore, but you can easily pick Pittsburgh as well to win this game. Their defense is to say it's stout. I expected them to slow down a little bit, and they did backslide, but I feel that was more so on Ben Roethlisberger last week than just the defense, because 2 to 3 interceptions Ben threw. He had no business throwing those balls, trying to fit them into tight windows. One of them, I have no idea where he was throwing. The third was just a junk play at the end of the first half. I don't even hold that against them. You're trying to do something there, before the clock runs out. It just happened to be a pick. But the other 2 interceptions and what he's looking at, I mean, you don't. It's bad enough that you lay up your wide receivers from time to time, but you don't throw to them when they're triple covered, running into the, a zone part of the defense where there are 3 defenders. That's not something you're supposed to do. And his experience level of being in this league, that was, I can't even call that a rookie mistake. Rookies don't even throw to wide receivers who are triple covered. But, I think the only concern I would have is the play of the defense without Devin Bush. And last week they proved that they could do just fine as long as they're not put in bad situations. Pittsburgh has to take care of the ball.
Doc, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, James, I was going to say the same thing. I was a little worried without Bush what it would look like, but Ben did make some bad decisions. But I think this is a great game to show the armor of the Ravens. And I think the way that Roethlisberger has got that offense sometimes, some quarters is running on all cylinders with multiple weapons. They get up by 2 touchdowns. It's time for this Super Bowl ready team, the Ravens, to show that they can come back, because they cannot with that kind of quarterback and that kind of offense. And I think it's a great time for Ben to get up by 10 or 14 and see how the Ravens react. You guys know what I'm saying? It's just that's their Achilles heel. And that's why they're never going to beat the Chiefs the way they play right now. Get up quick, So
Don, is Des Bryant the answer to that question?
Oh, God.
Well, apparently they have him simulating Chase Claypool because he's on the practice squad. He's even wearing the same jersey number. Why they're even doing that? Because he's not even remotely the same player. I don't get that at all. No, I'm not worried about Dez right now. I mean, let them pay him, $12,000 a week for a couple of weeks, get in some better shape, and then see what he can bring. Now, could he be better than our 4th receiver right now? Could he be better than Miles Boykin? Yeah, I think that's a good possibility, but I'm not going to expect anything from him, especially within the next 4 weeks or so. We'll see what happens.
Neil, what you got on this one?
Oh, I mean, you guys are saying lots of good stuff there. I just went with the home team, Jay. I think the Ravens will just sneak out a win. I have this vision of Calais Campbell lying on top of Ben Roethlisberger. That's
sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! Right, him and as if they needed Yannick Ngakoue on top of that.
Well, I think it will be quite a low scoring game. You got the Ravens are giving up 17 points a game, and the Steelers only 19 points a game. So it's very quick.
Jay, while I'm going over the injuries, if you could look up the stat for me, when was the last time one of these two teams swept the other?
Oh,
last year.
Was it last year?
When
that's right. Because Roethlisberger was hurt.
Story.
Yeah, Roethlisberger wasn't playing. So with the exception of last year.
That's a good question.
Because
these two teams battle.
You're right. And sweeping is not something that happens. So my thing is, whoever wins this game is not winning the one later on in the season. Rest of the Baltimore injuries include the 3/4 of the secondary. Smith and Humphrey, along with Anthony Levine, all show up as questionable. For Pittsburgh, wide receivers Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster show up with ankle and knee injuries respectively. Cornerback Mike Hilton nursing a shoulder injury. Tight end Eric Ebron did not practice with an elbow injury. Offensive lineman Alejandro Villanueva and Marquise Pouncey show up as questionable as well.
You know, in an era that is really missing that good rivalry, right? The Patriots and the Colts were probably the last rivalry in this league, and that was Brady versus Manning. The Steelers and the Ravens. Rivalry. The Steelers and the Ravens really harken back to the good old days of football, of teams that just hate each other.
2015 is the answer to your question.
When Roethlisberger was healthy?
Well, I don't know. I'm looking at 2015. 2015, the Ravens beat the Steelers 20-17 and 23-20.
They were like 6-10 that year. That's pretty surprising.
Doc, before I jump to the 4 o'clock games, I failed to ask you what your recipe of the week was.
Oh, it is one of our faves, one of the great appetizers on any game day, and that is guacamole. And this is called Doc's Grilled Guac. Story was this San Antonio chef that has a lineup around his restaurant, and I went and took the recipe, altered it a bit, and grilled it. And this is a nice smoky, savory, and spicy appetizer. So you grill the peppers, grill the tomatoes, char some of the onions, and grill the limes. And that's your kicker. On top of grilled limes, you get a little squirt of fresh orange, and you got one of the best guacs I think you'll ever taste.
So you do not call that guacamole?
Could. Guacamole. Thanks for that. I'll try and trademark it.
Okay.
Well, it's going in the front of the podcast as the tease. So good job out of you, Don. 4 o'clock games, and there's only 3 of them this week. I mean, come on. Now,
why is that?
I don't know, but I will tell you, I got a press release earlier this week that there was a scheduled change for week 10. And in week 10, there will actually be more 4 o'clock games than there will be 1 o'clock games. So it's not that the NFL is afraid of doing this. It's just this weird thing that they do. Like, why? I don't get it.
So I'm looking at the 4 o'clock games right now, and none of them warrant being the highlight game of the week.
I disagree.
Why not move Ravens Steelers to 4 o'clock? You can still leave these same 3 games here, but move Ravens Steelers to 4 o'clock.
Well, the problem with that is it's a CBS game, and Fox has the doubleheader this week. And I do believe that the Fox America's game of the week will be the 49ers Seahawks, which, as we highlighted at the beginning of this podcast, is the NFC best. We're not there yet, though. We have our first COVID watch game of the week at 4:05. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos. Apparently, the Chargers are the team that's on COVID watch. They had to shut things down today. I think they only had 1 positive test, and they are doing meetings virtually. So it may not put the game in jeopardy, but obviously, anytime there's a report of a player with COVID, we put them on watch. No truth to the rumors that Justin Turner went and celebrated with the Chargers after the Dodgers' victory, resulting in that positive test. The Chargers are currently 19th in the power rankings. The Broncos are 22nd. Chargers are favored by 3 in this one. The Broncos have won 3 of the past 4 versus the Chargers, including last year a 23-20 victory in December. And I believe one Drew Lock was the quarterback for the team in that particular game. I'm calling for the Monty special here, the upset special in this one. I'll take the Broncos.
Adam and Eve on a raft, a cup of muck, and an upset special.
I know I'm crazy, but I'm not all that crazy because I'm not alone. Neil is also taking the Broncos with me.
Yeah, I think the Broncos have been fairly feisty, haven't they? Defensively looking pretty good at times, going up against a rookie quarterback who's clearly done very well. But it's another one of these very close division games, isn't it? And I can see the Broncos nicking out by a field goal at the end.
I've seen Drew Lock play enough. I don't know if Drew Lock's going to be the guy or not. I mean, obviously, with Sutton being out for most of the season, really hurt him this year, plus his injuries. I just don't see a whole lot of fight, especially on offense, from the Broncos. The Chargers, on the other hand, I mean, a bit impressive, at least offensively, but they're still just not winning games. So I expect this to be, like you said, a close game. I don't see a Broncos defender being able to make an impact play, unlike like a Joey Bosa last week was able to really come back and make a big play for him. So I think it'll be close, but I think it'll be the Chargers in the end.
Doc, who you got?
I'm going Chargers. Big Herbert fan. 7 TDs, last 2 games, no picks, playing efficiently. Occasionally they get a defensive player that'll have a couple game-changing plays, but I think there's too much there. I like, to be honest with you, as lack of talent as there is playing right now for the Broncos, I love the way they're being coached. Like the way they're being coached. But
yeah,
Chargers, I don't know. I think that Justin Herbert right now, as a rookie quarterback, along with Burrow, they're going to change the face of the NFL. We're going to have 10, 12 elite quarterbacks in a couple years, and I think we're seeing something pretty phenomenal right now for a rookie quarterback. So I'm going to stick with my guy.
All right. James, what do we got for injuries?
All of the Broncos tight ends show up on the injury report. Andrew Beck, Noah Fant, Jake Butt, hamstrings and ankles for each of them. Tim Patrick, wide receiver, nursing a hamstring. Philip Lindsay is in the concussion protocol. Cornerback Devontae Harris shows up as questionable as well. For the Chargers, Brian Bulaga, Trey Turner, Storm Norton, all offensive linemen show up on the injury report. Melvin Ingram, defensive end, Rashawn Jenkins, the safety, and Virgil Green, the tight end, also showing up as well.
James,
still no word on. Sorry, Neil. Still no word on. Let me finish.
One of you, not both at the same time.
Yeah, mine's going to be funnier, I tell you.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, go ahead, Neil. Go with the funny, and then I'll go with the serious.
I was just going to ask James. I mean, he's mentioning all the tight ends there. Any advice you can give the listener, James, on how to nurse a tight end?
No word yet on Melvin. No word yet on Melvin Gordon's DUI suspension. Although I know he's officially released a statement apologizing for even putting himself in that situation.
Yeah, as far as any other discipline by the team, haven't seen anything as of yet. He is scheduled to play this game against his former team.
Yeah. The New Orleans Saints are at the Chicago Bears. The Saints fall from 8 to 10 in our power rankings. The Bears fall from 11 to 15. The Saints are favored by 4.5 points in this particular game. I got a lot on this one. Let's see here. The Saints have the league's number 1 third down offense, converting 55% of the time. The Bears, meanwhile, have the NFL's number 2 ranked third down defense, allowing only 31.7% conversions. Alvin Kamara, became the 4th running back in NFL history with at least 2,500 receiving yards in his first 4 seasons. He joins Roger Craig, Christian McCaffrey, and Pro Football Hall of Famer Lenny Moore. Entering week 8, Kamara, who leads the NFL with 824 scrimmage yards and tied for the lead league with 7 touchdowns, 4 rushing, 3 receiving, also leads all running backs with 46 receptions and 460 receiving yards this season. So with at least 4 receptions at Chicago, Kamara will become the 3rd running back with at least 50 receptions in each of his first 4 seasons in NFL history, which will join the likes of Matt Forte and Pro Football Hall of Famer and perhaps greatest running back ever, LaDainian Tomlinson?
No.
Drugs you've been taking this morning?
No, we had this conversation that LaDainian Tomlinson belongs in that conversation. That was a long time ago. That was a few seasons ago. Go back and check that one out. If you can dig it up out of the archives.
I think you and Julian Edelman are taking the same juice.
Do you not? You were part of this podcast when we talked about the greatest running back of all time. No, LaDainian Tomlinson didn't win the title, but after looking at his statistics, he deserves to be in the conversation.
Yeah, my conversation only has 5 names, and one of them is not his.
Well, it should be. LaDainian, in any case, Alvin Kamara has put himself in the title in amongst those names of running backs, Doc. But Neil has done you dirty. He's taken the Bears.
Not a bad pick. Here's what's going on with the Saints. We are en route to the most historically bad red zone defense ever. I think it was 18 of 21 TDs. Or scores, I should say. Drew's fine. Alvin's fine. Alvin right now is making one major impactful play per game that is really changing the score. But Thomas likely out. Sanders has COVID. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Marquez Callaway had a stellar Michael Thomas-like game, sprained his ankle. We don't know his status yet. I think he's going to play, but I think there's enough weapons there. It's going to be a much higher scoring game than people are thinking. The Saints are horrible in cover 2, cover 1, cover 0, cover 4, cover. They are just crap. They are historically bad. So Drew's going to have to go back to the old days. He's going to have to put up 30. I don't know. I'm not really worried. All the metrics say both run and pass, both defense and offense. Saints win. I think that just puts them over the top. I'm talking like a 30 to 28 game for the Saints.
Oh no,
it should be quite interesting here.
I believe James, your microphone is busting up on us. Neil, what do you have?
Let's hope that noise was the microphone. Huh?
Wow, seriously?
It sounded like an old Atari.
Yeah, it sounded like he was having a problem with his tight end.
All right, Neil. Why are you taking the Bears?
Well, I kind of feel a bit sorry for the Bears because they're sitting there at 5-2, and they're getting absolutely no credit at all for being 5-2. And you can say, yeah, offensively they're a team in transition. They're struggling. I'm not sure if Foles is the answer, and I'm not sure if going back to Trubisky is the answer. And I'm not really sure if they know what the answer is. But defensively, they're still very, very good defensively. And okay, they lost to the Rams last week, but the Rams are also 5-2, so they're a good side. And I think the Bears are probably better than they're getting credit for, and I will take them against the Saints, who I think are a team on the verge of getting a proper spanking at some point, because they're showing all the signs of a team with issues in the background, and I'm not sure you can go that far in a season when you're relying on just one player really to make the plays for you when it's not the quarterback as well. So. As much as I love Alvin Kamara, and he's a absolutely sensational all-purpose back, one of the best without question in the league right now. I just think this could be a game where the Saints just can't get enough drives going, and I'd like to know, Jay, what the weather forecast is for this game.
I'll look it up. In the meantime, I will also ask Doc to clarify. Is this? I believe I saw this is the first game the Saints are playing outdoors all season.
I'd have to think about that. And let's go back to that old fallacy. This crap that they've got the dome is a major advantage. It's crap. The Saints are playing over a 73% tick against the spread on the road. They've been the best road team in the NFL. On grass, outdoors, indoors, whatever. Does not matter. It's a fallacy. I don't think that's got anything to do with it playing outside. This is, yeah, you could be right.
Jay, you're right. This is the first game outdoors for the Saints this season. Week 1, they were home for the Buccaneers, at the Raiders, which is a dome, home for the Packers, at the Lions, dome, and home the last 2 weeks against the Chargers and the Panthers.
And it's another game where they may want to rely on Alvin Kamara a little bit more because it's going to be 39 degrees as a high, partly cloudy and windy, 24-mile-per-hour gusts.
And you give me that Celsius, honestly. You do this Fahrenheit thing every time.
Yeah, well, look, even I'm an American. I don't know Celsius.
Even with the injuries, I think the Saints offense can replicate what the Rams did last week. And, you know, you don't have to score a lot. 20, 21 points is pretty much good enough to beat the Bears because, yeah, you've all said it already. The defense is playing extremely well, and that's the only reason they've been in and winning games. The offense is pretty much a hindrance to them. Wide receivers for the Saints on the injury report, Marquez Callaway, Michael Thomas, neither practiced yesterday, so keep an eye on them throughout the weekend. Offensive lineman Nick Eason and Teron Armstead also show up on the injury report as questionable. For the Bears, Eddie Jackson, Khalil Mack, Sherrick Manis, defensive players, all key, showing up on the injury report as questionable. Cole Kmet, Cordero Patterson, Allen Robinson on the offensive side show up with back, quad, and concussion protocol, respectively.
By the way, talking about a bad play, 4th and 1, and instead of giving it to a real running back, you give it to Cordero Patterson. Not a good idea.
He is a running back, or at least that's how they have him listed.
Yeah.
And per your stat earlier, I call umbrage with the selection committee of the Hall of Fame. Put in Roger Craig.
Yep.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Quite right.
Speaking of Roger Craig, he used to play for the San Francisco 49ers, and they are playing the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers are 14th in the power rankings. The Seahawks are 4th. They dropped from 1st to 4th. They are favored by 3 points in this game. With a touchdown pass on Sunday, Russell Wilson will become the 3rd player to reach 250 touchdown passes in his first 9 seasons in NFL history, joining Peyton Manning, 275 touchdown passes, and Pro Football Hall of Famer Dan Marino with 266. Seattle also has the number 1 offense in the league. Despite the 49ers having great depth, I'm going to take the Seahawks in this one, and everybody else is too.
There's a question for me. Oh, sorry, James. There's a question for me here with the trade deadline. This surely, the Seattle Seahawks are prime candidates to be looking for a couple of defensive players. Surely, that would take them over the edge.
They just got one in Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah, but need more than that.
Vanilla.
Well, I have a situation for you. The answer is the Seahawks defense, and the question is, give me one unit that can make any quarterback look good. So you look at the Falcons, Patriots, Cowboys, Dolphins, Vikings. This Seahawks defense can't stop any quarterback from throwing the football. They are giving up 28 points a game. Worst in the league against the pass. I would not be surprised if, because of the injuries on the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo actually looks like a bona fide pro quarterback this week.
He looks like a bona fide quarterback every week, and he's the most beautiful man in the world. So don't forget it.
But James, imagine
Jay is not biased at all, by the way.
Imagine the Seattle defense. If you add somebody like Stephon Gilmore into that secondary, or if you take J.J. Watt out of Texans and stick him in there, wouldn't that change the defense just for a couple of drives?
Yeah.
And look, this is virtually the same defense from last year, minus Jadeveon Clowney, and to see that they're not getting any pass rush. The coverage in the linebacker and secondary is atrocious. I mean, as good as that game was Sunday night against the Cardinals, I'm watching their defense in various situations. I'm like, how is no one keying this guy? One of the touchdown passes was a combination route, wide receiver to one side and the running back coming out of the backfield behind him. and no one moved towards the wide receiver. No one keyed the running back, and it was basically just a dig out. He ran, what was virtually an option route. He faked an in, came out. There wasn't a defender within 5 yards, and every single defender in the defense behind the line was standing on the goal line. No one reacted until he caught the ball, and at that point, it was too late.
So to summarize what you're saying, the Seattle defense, unlike its quarterback, is limited.
I mean, limited would imply that there's something that they can overcome, and they can't even do that. They might as well not even be on the field, basically. I mean, they're basically out there to, I guess, tackle occasionally. And
not to give the Seahawks a pass here, but are they not
getting a pass
with their fourth and fifth cornerback? Like, didn't their starting 3 cornerbacks all get injuries that put them out for the season? If I'm not mistaken.
No, Shaquille Griffin is one of the starting quarterbacks. Now, he is in concussion protocol this week, but he is one of their default starters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, the Seahawks defense is not what it used to be, clearly, and they could use some help. And Neil mentioned a couple of guys that are probably rumored to be on the trading block and could end up in Seattle and help them out. And I think Seattle should consider it. I mean, Seattle is currently in a position where they could make some noise and perhaps bring home a championship at the end of the season.
What would you want for Gilmore, Jay?
I would like a first-round draft pick, please.
They don't have
of course you would. Not going to happen.
They don't have a first. That's the problem with Seattle.
Seattle doesn't have one either.
No, they gave it up for Adams, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of defensive players, and I don't want to jump the gun about the Cowboys, but they did release Dockeray and Daryl Worley, who was a corner, and they didn't work out in Dallas. Change of scenery normally helps a player. They're both available because Dallas cut them since they couldn't find trade partners. Something the Seahawks might want to consider, maybe some new lifeblood. I just fail to believe that schematically this defense is this bad with the talent they have, because this is a talented unit. But schematically, they look atrocious.
I'll tell you what's happened. I'll tell you what's happening, James. They're just like the Saints. That, like, even look at Shaquille Griffin's numbers. Right, he was at rising stock in this league. He's playing way below par. A whole bunch. They all are playing below par. I mean, the same with the Saints. We upgrade the defense, get Malcolm Jenkins. He's crapping the bed. Marcus Williams crapping the bed. Demario Diab, but he's smart. And Demario Davis, all-pro middle linebacker, crapping the bed. Cam Jordan, AWOL. This all happens at once. Same with the injuries and same with the talent on the Seahawks defense. Just historically playing bad on top of being injured at the same time.
I still think, Doug, that in Lattimore, the Saints have arguably the best cornerback in the NFL, and he's really disappointed in the last 18 months.
Well, what he was famous for, Neil, is he shuts down number one receivers.
Yep.
And now we had a number two. Now we've got a second good quarterback, and then we upgraded our safety position. We've upgraded our linebacker. And just everybody has crapped the bed at one time. Yep. And I think he's good enough, but he's been torched this year too. Early in the season, he's had a couple of good games in a row. But I think the Saints are like the Seahawks, can score on anybody at any time, but that defense is a wet paper bag.
Going back to the Daryl Worley and Dockeray comment, I don't know if it's a good thing for your resume to say you were cut from the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I agree.
I understand, but I mean, it's not like either one played that much this year for Dallas to begin with. I mean, Dockeray barely had 18 to 20 snaps so far this season. He's, as far as I could tell, I don't think there was any one game where he was listed as a starter. They were bringing him in situationally and very limited at that. So Worley pretty much joined the team, I think, a few weeks ago due to injuries in front of him. So this is, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, in their defense, they didn't really play that much. Key injuries here. Niners, Deebo Samuel, Jeff Wilson are both out. Other Niners showing up on the injury report include Jaquiski Tart, Jimmy Ward, Quan Alexander, all defensive players. So be wary of that. Jamal Adams also showing up on the injury report, illness and the inner thigh issue going on there, along with the other safety, Ugo Amadi. Let's see, running backs Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson showing up on the injury report is questionable. Neither practiced yesterday. Freddie Swain, Dwayne Brown, and Mike Iapati round out the injuries with questionable reports.
Yeah, I believe Chris Carson is probably a good chance of missing. A lot of people, for fantasy reasons, went to go get Carlos Hyde. So the fact that he's not practicing, who's the next running back on the depth chart in Seattle?
Travis Homer, who also shows up on the injury report with a knee injury.
Oh, interesting. So maybe
It's
Seattle
like the
just
end of last year.
maybe they just won't run the football. Let's see who else they have here on their lineup. DJ Dallas, who they drafted in the 4th round. He on the injury report?
Nope.
Oh, there we go.
Carson's a game time decision. I know that. So,
all right. Well, we will keep an eye on that. All right. Sunday night football. I can find my way on my computer. We have the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. How this game did not get flexed out. How? I don't understand. The Cowboys are 30th in our power rankings. The Eagles are 23rd. They are favored by 3.5 points in this game. I don't know if that's enough. Sometimes the stats just don't tell the story. Just ask Jerry Jones. Stats are for losers. They relish in them. Stats say you should win, Jerry, except no, that's not going to happen.
Last week, Jay, Washington played Dallas. Well, played is probably not a term I should be using. They just slaughtered Dallas, and Washington's a poor team. We know this. They're not. They're a well below average team in this league. But I have watched Washington play Dallas for a long, long time. I've never seen a Dallas team as bad as this. They were dreadful. I knew from the opening drive in the game, even though we got stopped on 4th down, that we were going to win the game comfortably. It was bizarre. I've just never seen anything as bad as that. Never.
So what is wrong with this team? Is it coaching? Is it just what's going on there? Because they have the talent on paper. Talent is there.
Well, it's definitely injuries. I mean, the offensive line is certainly the worst offensive line Dallas has had for a number of years. Obviously, the quarterback position's poor. You've got to look at the defense, and that defense. I mean, when your head coach is coming into a press conference and getting Tabasco sauce or whatever it was in his eyes, then there's a problem, don't you? I mean, Jesus Christ. So they've got a problem defensively. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. And they can't stop any pass. It's not just their poor cornerback, for example. They can't stop passes over the middle. The linebackers are terrible. The safeties are terrible. Deep and outside, they're terrible. They can't stop anything. You could throw any pass you like to any positional player on your team, and they'll catch it and get yards after the catch. They just cannot stop the pass, and they have zero pass rush. I mean, Lawrence, I think, got a sack against Washington, but I mean, Washington's offensive line is a mess. They started their backup left tackle, and the offensive line's been poor all year, and there was just no consistent pressure on the Washington line. And on the other side of the ball, every time Dalton for the first 3 quarters, and then Bendy DiNucci, what he's called, he played the 4th quarter. It was pressure on every single pass play. It was terrible, and Elliott looks like a shadow of his former self. They don't have an identity, Jay. I think that's the biggest issue. Just no identity, offensively or defensively.
James, your team's not much better.
No, and for everything Neil said, for everything Neil just said, allow me to counter with Thursday night football, Giants, Eagles. There was no reason the Giants should have been ahead at any point in that football game. You're talking about an offense, much like the Cowboys right now, that only has one player you need to be concerned with, and they couldn't stop that one player. I mean, granted, he ran 80 yards and tripped over the turf monster, but there's no reason that Daniel Jones should have had any chance to, 1, have the lead, and 2, be competitive in that game against the Eagles. I don't know what's going on with this defense, because basic assignments they're missing. I don't know what Schwartz is calling defensively. I sometimes don't understand what the offensive staff is calling for Carson Wentz. I would say Carson Wentz played well, but he threw a bonehead interception. Our kicker missed a field goal. There were points left out there on the field due to questionable play calling. Instances where we're going for two when there's no need, considering the game and the situation, the game time left in the situation as far as what we needed to do. I don't understand how this team is. It's like this team only plays well when pressure mounts. Like we have to start off down 14 points before everyone pulls their heads out of their butts and is like, oh, we're in a football game. Let's actually play like professionals.
James, there's no way that the Cowboys are scoring 14 points in this game.
You know what? There's no way the New York Giants should have scored 14 points last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, and yet somehow they did.
No, there's no chance. You'll win this game by 25 points.
Look, you know what? I wish I had your optimism, but this Miles Sanders should be back this week, healthy enough to play. Whether he starts, different question. But even still, with Boston Scott and Corey Clement, you have competent bona fide running backs who are both the threat in the pass and the run game, and you refuse to get them the ball in any way, shape, or form that helps them to be productive. There should have been way more running yards from the running backs last week, and the head coach just refused to call running plays. There are too many drives where there's Carson Wentz dropping back to throw the ball for multiple plays at a time. And when it works out, cool, but we can't have stretches where there are 8 straight pass plays. Yeah. That's not how this offense is built.
See, that's Jerry Jones phoning up Jay there, just to sort of say it's going to be a long night. James, all I'm hearing from you really is blah, 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 blah. It's going to be 25-point victory and move on to the next game.
I would. You know what? I hope it is, but I don't have your faith right now because I've seen this team play, and unfortunately, it's becoming one of those teams that just plays up and down to its competition and winning by a field goal or less when it should be a blowout. I mean, look, we know the mess this Dallas team is right now, and they should be the laughingstock of the league, and every team should come in and beat them like they stole something. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia Eagles may not do that because for whatever reason, the ineptitude of the calls that are made or the execution of the plays, take your pick. I need Carson Wentz to have a game with 0 turnovers.
It's just more blah, 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 blah.
James, your coach and my coach have golf vacation reservations for January.
You know what? I would like to agree, but I still believe that this team can win a division with 7 wins, considering that if they actually get their act right, they can win the remaining divisional games. That would Let me finish. They can win the remaining 4 divisional games. That would give them 6 wins, and they can find 1 win somewhere else outside of the division. Maybe Cleveland or somewhere else. I don't know, but this is definitely a 7-win team at this point. I just wish that they would. People want to say there's too many injuries. No, this team is supposed to be coached well. Like, certain players shouldn't be on the field, and again, I'm not going to mention the 2 wide receivers who show up on the injury report every single week because I don't consider them a part of the team. I haven't all year, and I'm not now.
Is he still talking about this game?
I'm trying to find out. So is NBC promoting this game? Hey, why don't you check out the CBS Sunday Night Movie of the Week, Star Trek Beyond, instead of this one? I mean, there's literally nothing. I mean, unless you want to watch some of the terrible Walking Dead spinoffs like I do, there's nothing going on Sunday night. So at least NBC is like, hey, we've got football.
That new one is not very good so far, is it?
No, it's not.
It's boring. I'm waiting for a even bigger tie-in to the mythos, but it just hasn't happened yet.
With the Star Trek series? No,
we're talking Walking Dead.
Oh, Walking Dead. No, Walking Dead is terrible. Yeah, give up. Yeah. Give up.
Well, the Walking Dead isn't. There's the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the Dallas Cowboys, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly. So you can watch The Walking Dead on the football field or The Walking Dead on cable. All right, James, what's the injury report look like? And we'll move on to Monday night, which will be a quick one too.
Yeah. Nathan Gary, Miles Sanders, Jack Driscoll, Malik Jackson, Lane Johnson, all show up on the injury report as questionable. I expect half of them to suit up. And for Dallas, Dalton is still in concussion protocol. He did not practice yesterday. Zach Martin is in concussion protocol, but did practice yesterday. So while Martin looks to be on track to play, Dalton may go all the way up until Sunday afternoon before we find out if he plays or not.
All right. Monday Night Football features another crappy team from the NFC least.
Hey.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at the New York Giants. The Bucks.
And I have breaking news on this one.
Yeah, there's a COVID watch on this one too.
Oh yeah.
The Bucks are 5th in the power rankings. The Giants have taken back their spot at 31. Although I did not have them at 30. I have Jacksonville at 31. I have the Giants at 30, but that was just me. Everybody else put them lower. Vegas has a 10.5 point spread. Let's go to the James, if you've got that news right in front of you. I know that apparently 4 offensive linemen put into the COVID protocols.
Couple of coaches, 4 offensive linemen as it is right now. They're on
for the Giants.
One lineman. For the Giants, Hernandez was actually put on the COVID reserve list today because of that. So, there's some things. 2 coaches and multiple players have been sent home following positive tests. The facility is still open as this is still going across NFL Network as we record this. So we don't know what the status of this game is as of this recording. But
at minimum, a 1 in 4 chance of it being canceled. That's what I'm hearing. At minimum, probably closer to 50-50.
And it turns out that the positive tests were from last night.
Yeah, that's definitely going to make it difficult. Although it is Monday, so it is an extra day, but I don't even know if that's enough.
I believe the deadline they try to go all the way up to the day before a game. So as long as no one tests positive on Sunday, Monday is still a go.
So the Giants did win this matchup last year, 32-31, but Brady has only 4 interceptions and 18 touchdowns, not 30 for 30 like the previous quarterback. Also, the Bucks average 31.7 points per game. The Giants only manage a meager 17.4 points per game. Don has put a lock on this one. Neil has refused to even pick this game. And I don't know what Doc's got, but I'm assuming we're all taking the Buccaneers.
You know what? Just because of what Brady did this week, you guys heard about that with claiming there's as many suicides as there are COVID-related deaths.
Oh, gosh, he did not.
And then they pulled it. Just, are you kidding me? Anyways, no, I got to go Bucks, but I'm tempted to say no. I mean, and by the way, they are playing the best football in the league, but everybody just freaking relax. This whole thing with Brown and everybody, the dynamic of a team changes, and we do not judge the Miss America competition after the swimsuit competition. So just relax. Let's let this play through. It's like they've already anointed them, just stop. The media, of course, I'm talking to.
Well, I mean, I actually, said that this was the way that the Bucs season was going to go. They were going to have a couple of stumbles early on, and then as the season progressed, they were going to find that chemistry that football teams need to actually string together some wins.
Yeah.
And so here they are.
They'll be right there with the Saints at the end. It's going to be good. They both got their own litmus tests coming up, and it'll be good. There's some good quality football coming finally out of the NFC. So
the Giants bye week is week 11. The Bucks bye week is week 13.
I thought the Bucks bye week was this week.
The Bucks play the Rams in week 11, and the Rams bye week is week 9. I don't know how they'll fix it, but of course they'll do something to make it work so that they don't have to add that extra week at the end. But so we have 2 games on COVID watch. We managed to avoid any COVID related issues last week. Apparently we can't get 2 weeks in a row.
No.
It's going to continue to remain fluid. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Coaches and players have to be careful, and not just the coaches and players, those who are going home to families. I mean, you can't be responsible for the people who hang out with the people you live with. And if that's the case, that, that's how a lot of these coaches and players are showing up with positive tests, somewhere along the line, you got to limit who your family has contact with. And I'm not saying like put the whole house on lockdown, but, your spouse, your children, whoever else lives in the house with you, you have to be, you have to have some type of discipline in place to know, like, okay, if these are the places you're going to where there's going to be a population of people, wear your mask, limit your interaction. I mean, I can't see how, I don't understand personally how people still go out to restaurants and eat just because they're open. Like, absolutely hell no. I at minimum, I would do pickup, if not delivery.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. So if this is a thing where, people just still going out to eat, and, you have situations like the Raiders a couple of weeks ago where they had their function with, they showed players without masks, and who was the offensive lineman got together for Tennessee, even after their facility shut down, they still worked out together. You got to be smarter about these things. And I would love to say common sense, but at this rate, common sense is a superpower, and not everybody has it. So, I mean,
well, and the definition of common sense is different for everyone. I don't want to make that. We went through COVID, a COVID conversation a number of times on this podcast. And I will just say there's a pretty good opinion article from Yahoo Sports, which is reacting to the outrage of Justin Turner, who tested positive, was isolated, and then came back and celebrated with the Dodgers when they won without a mask and all that good. And trust me, he probably shouldn't. But there's definitely this dividing line between people that are deathly afraid of this virus and people who think that this virus is nothing, we can go on with their lives. And then there's this middle ground that people don't seem to be listening to of, yes, this virus is something that we need to be concerned with, but no, we don't need to be deathly afraid of it and shut everything down. And at the same time, we just can't open everything up. We have to be a little bit smarter. We have to have the social distancing. We have to wash our hands and not touch our face and just not make out with somebody who's got COVID. Let's use that as sort of our basis for common sense. Don't make out with people that have COVID. Sam Darnold.
Hey, look, I would just like to quote a famous rapper who once said, "You can't trust a big butt and a smile."
The Arizona Cardinals moved up to 11th in our power rankings. The Washington football team moved up to 25th. The Jaguars fell to 29th, and the Texans fell to 26th in our power rankings. Those are the four teams that are on bye. If you want any of Doc's recipes, you can go to our website, nextfanup.wordpress.com, or our Facebook page, if you prefer, facebook.com/NFU podcast. But besides that, if you want to win a book, you will have to email us, nextfanup@gmail.com. Doc, what is this book that you have for us?
The book is called Love, Zach, and it's a real sad story, to be honest with you, about an Iowa kid, how pro football shaped their family post-war, dating back generations. In the middle of Iowa, he became a Pack fan, played high school football, little undersized, played with his head, and developed CTE very early in life and ended his life. And Reed is a writer from Minnesota, is the author, and has, as much as I love the story and how he tells it, he gives a really great overview of how football culture proliferated post World War II. And it really just blends in with the mindset of the blue collar farming family. And it's fantastic. It's called Love, Zach. And Reed did some special writing. His name is Reed Fordgrave. He writes for the Star Tribune in Minnesota. So it is a football family book. It's a little sad. Anybody that studied chronic trauma encephalopathy like I have, dating back 10 years with Boston University, it hits home. And it's for all of us that played high school football. It definitely hits home. But it's a great book. Anyways, Algonquin Publishing is going to give us a couple of copies of Reed's book, Love, Zach. And the publicist says, give them away. We're good to go. So we'll make sure we get a nice some detail about the book to you, and then we can take care of the Next Fan Up Nation.
So nextfanup@gmail.com. Write me an email on how you celebrate football with your family. And we superfans will judge who celebrates the best and send you a book as your prize. Nextfanup@gmail.com is the way to do that. At NFU Podcast on Twitter. I mentioned the Facebook page and our website. I went and played with a website. Listen, I am not a web designer, so it's very simple. It's very straightforward. But all of Doc's recipes are there with his beautiful photos of the food and our power rankings. The power rankings will be up now. I'll try to update the latest power rankings. The Week 8 power rankings aren't there right now as of the time that you're listening to this podcast, but I'll get them there eventually. So give me a little slack on that. Okay? Thanks. With that, thank you to Doc. Thank you to all of the super fans. Here comes Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together. And through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.